Hello and welcome to Dubai Trains and welcome to another layout design video. And today we're going to look at an N-scale tabletop design of 13 by 5 feet. It's set in the Northwest United States and the client is going to run mostly UP and Santa Fe. And this design was a real tug-of-war between two in-laws, of which one wants to do some local switching and the other one wants to just sit back and rail fan passenger trains. So let's see how we fit all that on this tabletop design. So here's the design in its entirety, and we have a station here down below, passenger station. We have a yard. We have a double track main line that loops all around the layout. And the original design was not intended to have a double track main line, but I'll come back to that later. We have a separate station here on the top side of the design, some switching, a mine, steel industry, and more. So let's just get started. Let's dive down here below at the station and go through the track plan one by one. So if we get our bearings, this is the double track main line that I'm selecting right here in green. And it goes all the way to the right. So we come off here on the main line to this double siding for two platforms to the main station. And the main station consists of this passenger depot and a freight depot. So if you want, you can still do a little bit of freight switching here as well. And after that, the two passenger sidings just merge again and join the main line right here. Behind it is a bit of a compressed scene of various buildings leading up to this taller ridge that actually divides the entire layout in two sections. And in between it is this double track main line on an elevated section. We'll come back to that later. Now, down below we have a yard. If I just go a little bit to the right, we see we have a yard coming off the main line right here, and it's designed to work totally independently of the main line. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4 classification tracks. Then here we even have a small 2-track engine terminal. It's always very popular with my clients, and I understand because it looks great, and you do want your engines to go somewhere. So we have some fueling, sanding, and a small maintenance shed right there. On the right, we have a yard office right here, and then this one track, and it's a spur, and that ends here on the right. You know, there's an elevated road right here, just to create a bit of a scene divider and to cordon off this section a little bit. And up here on top of the same height as the elevated road is a spur with an industry on it that crosses the railroad. And that also creates a little bit of a view block a bit higher up, especially with these chimneys right here, to really cordon off this section a bit. So we have the road, chimneys, mountaintop, really to create this, let's call it an archway, a few blockers. So going to the left, to the bottom, we have another industry spur. That could be anything really. It's not yet decided which industry exactly this is, but just something that's a bit larger and that takes up this space. We also just crossed the main water feature on the layout. And this track right here that goes straight ahead from the main line actually goes to staging. So yes, this layout also has some staging. Now, if you're looking to get your hands on this design, you can have a look at my Patreon, where you can, through a one-time purchase, buy this exact track plan in the AnyRail file, or you can become a member and then you have access to my entire catalog. So let's follow the main line in eastward direction. Go a bit to the right again. So here is the double track main line. And then we have a double crossover here. I'll come back to that later with the layout diagram. I think that will be needed to really explain that. And the train doesn't reappear here, just to pop its head out a little bit between two tunnels in this great curved section. In this ridge, this gorge where that river is winding through, we have a double trestle right here. This is a 15-inch radius for anyone who's wondering. The largest radius is this one right here, and that's 18.9 inches. So the train reappears here and then dives into another tunnel. Again, these are all scene blockers, just to make this scene here a bit as a whole. I'll come back to the staging on the left in a bit. And we reappear here where we have a double crossover. And remember that the siding up top, that's here as well. And these crossovers are great because if you want to switch this siding right here and you do have a train coming in, then you can go to the northern track of these two and then make a crossover back to the regular track if you have right-hand traffic. Follow the main line, and then we come to the second feature, let's say, of this layout. And that is here a siding with a passenger station on it and a freight depot combined, both of them together. So that's great. If you're operating by yourself in, let's call it railfan mode, then you probably wouldn't really use the freight depot. You would just use this as a station. But if you're operating by yourself and you want to do a lot of switching, then you can switch the freight depot as well. And if you're both operating together, well, then you gotta fight it out who's going to use this track as a freight depot. I see this platform as a bit of a makeshift platform, not really elevated, just a lot of sand or compacted dirt or something like that. And I extended it all the way here to the left, so larger passenger trains can make use of the station as well. So on the north side, we have another spur with two industries right here. One is just a transfer facility where you can move goods from rail to road and the other way around. And then here we have a little freight house. It basically does the same, but it goes goes through a building. Now, to really add to the switching side of the layout, I decided to add this little switching section back here that again you can use while someone else is running a rail fanning the main line, but you can just, with these double crossovers, there's one here and there's one way on the left in the tunnel way back there as well. So you can free up this inner track and use that to switch. And then we also have a siding here, if perhaps if you need to do some classification, small light classification work. And of course the runaround, which will be needed. So on the left we have is a basic configuration for a coal tipple, coal mine there. And here on the right we have the Vulcan steel building. I used that before in a different layout design. And it's just a great little kit actually, because it has here a shed with an overhead crane that you can have two tracks running through. And I imagine these tracks also to be embedded in a road surface, so trucks can also go underneath the crane, overhead crane. And then we have the Vulcan steel, the main building, which you can actually go through. So that is really just a neat addition scenery-wise, and just to make the whole industry hit home, I just added this section here in the back with the truck that you would have a lot of wooden beams, etc., that can be loaded straight onto flat cars like that. Now, if you want to make this facility bigger, you can. You just buy two of these kits and you just duplicate it like that. More or less, you got to change track a bit, and then you can have this guy probably somewhere over here, something like that. And then you can really expand upon that. Now, if you're looking for inspiration for your own layout, or if you want to get started in the hobby on the right foot, or you're struggling with the design, please have a look at my website, modelrailroaddesigns.com, where you can find loads of information and all types of track plans. So in the middle of all this rail activity is a small village, just with a basic commerce street. Put some structures in here. This is the Woodland Scenics Bruce Bakery, Eric's Emporium in the corner turret building, and we have a parking lot here. And again, a view breaker here. We have the road that goes over the track, the view of the train a bit. We also have the big hills right here. And you see the mine is in this pocket of hills, and that's actually necessary because if we move a little bit to the left, we see this track right here that is heading downwards again. So it's still running here in this hill. So we need this hill, we need to create this pocket for the track to work. And also it now really serves the mine well. So we have Commerce Street, then we have one road here, just continuing on into the bushes to the next little village, I assume. Here, I think it's nice to just put a little row of more labor worker houses as they were back in the day. And this is all onset by this mountain ridge again, where everything disappears into the trees that acts as a scene divider between the front and the back of the layout. So let's continue our journey. Here we have the main line, and then we're going underneath this mountain. Here is another double crossover. I can show you because I can select here the upper track and it goes to the lower track. And we are heading downwards now, following the creek, winding around, and then eventually we come here to the station again where everything starts all over. So that is the visual part and the main portions of the layout. Now let's have a little bit look at the staging and everything hidden underneath. And I do want to mention that the staging is added on later. It was originally not meant to have this section of the layout here on the left. So that was why it looks like it's pasted on, because it quite literally is pasted on. And here is the track plan, all the visual track that we saw. If I just switch it to the hidden track. If we just get our bearings quickly, then here's the mine is somewhere here where my mouse is, and this is that double track main line that has to go through that hill that creates that pocket in the land. And it basically just goes underneath the layout and reconnects here with the main line at the front going to the station. So from here, from the outer loop, we are taking off a track and creating this siding that basically connects back to the station. I'll talk to that about that in a minute. But here off the siding, we have the staging. Now, what you could do is place the staging underneath the second deck. However, the space is so tight, we have about like 5 centimeters, about 2 inches. I just don't deem that a feasible solution because you have these turnouts that you can't reach, and then you have the train itself that you can't reach. So that's why I suggested to place it here on the left. So one thing that you don't immediately see is that the staging connects to the outer track up here, as I just showed you. And here on the left, if we go to past the station, it connects to the inner track. So let's have a look at the diagram and see what that means. So here is the track plan, and yes, it is a very basic oval, a very basic loop if you just split it all out and fold it all out. And now I want to loop your attention to the like button down below. Please click it if you like this video so other people can find it as well. Thank you very much. So here we have the main section as we saw it from the river here on the left until the tunnel here on the right. And let's talk about that staging first. So you see here we have the track going from the inner loop connecting to staging right here on the right, and then connecting back to the outer loop. And that's great because that means that you can have trains from the yard going eastbound on this track to staging, and also trains heading this way going westbound and then also heading to staging. So your staging is both for eastbound and westbound traffic. And that's the same for the passenger trains as well. So that means if you're here at this main passenger depot and eastbound, you can just easily enter the staging. You can cross over here and then up you'll go. And if you're at the station and you're leaving westbound, then you got to make an entire loop. See how good I can draw that. And then stay on this inner track main line and then zip, go straight into staging. And I think that's a great, neat feature. I always, with my designs, intend to have certain routes that are not possible, because if everything would be possible all the time, it's also just not fun. You want to create some boundaries and limitations in your design to challenge the operators a little bit. So if you look at the double crossovers, this one right here and this one right here allows you to free this section of track to switch the industries right here, because the train going clockwise on this track will then switch to the upper track and then go back to the lower track as such. And it also allows for this industry here to be switched by using this track. So for the train going anti-clockwise, coming in here, you would go to the other track. And then you can also go to the passenger station, note that as well, and then switch back here to the outer track where you belong. And the same is true for all the other industry sidings here, and also for the passenger station right here. So for anti-clockwise traffic, you would have to make the crossover here on the top, right there, take the inner loop, and go to the passenger depot, and then come back, take this crossover, and off you go on your journey again. Now, just a little quick mix. If let's say we are traveling clockwise, then here is the yard. It's a facing spur. So then we have another facing right here. We have another facing right here. We have facing right here. And that's about it. And then we have a trailing. The mine is trailing. And that's about that as well. The depots are both trailing and facing, because you can enter them from both directions. So you see there's some diversity there. Most of them are facing, but we do have a few trailing just to keep you on your toes and to keep it interesting. And now it's time for some final words on tabletop designs, because my regular viewers know that I don't really prefer tabletop designs. Around the room layouts against the wall are, generally speaking, the best use of your space. But in this case, the client had bookshelves all around the wall, so we didn't really have any other option. And the initial dimensions for the layout that the client gave were 2 feet deeper than it is now. But then I came to learn that he allocated a 2 feet aisle width around the layout, and that's just not enough. So I opted to make the layout less deep, to cut off a foot on either side, to have 3 feet of aisle width all around instead of 2 feet. Just the benefit when you're making the layout, or when you're reaching the bookshelves, or when you're just enjoying the layout with a few people, 3 feet is really the minimum you need to be able to pass each other and to not always bump into everything. So let me know down below what you think of this layout design, or if there's anything you would have done differently. That's it for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. Bye bye.